Right now, though, we've got the questions from the jury in the case over the death of this little angel. This is Suni Bell. She was 4 years old when she was shot to death, riding in the back seat of her family's car. 5 defendants on trial. We've just hit the 9-hour mark in the deliberations. Let's go in and see what questions the jury has.
All right, well, one of their initial questions is they all want their own copy of the jury instructions. So what I suggest is taking the copy that they have, since it's in order, and having Christina photocopy 11 other copies so they'll each have their own. Now, their 3 instructions are as follows. 1, on each count.
I mean, their questions are.
The questions. On each count, does it have to be unanimous on the degree of guilty? Example, if 11 people say first-degree murder and 1 person says second-degree murder, does that mean they get charged with second-degree murder? Question 2, and I guess they're talking about the other charges. Question 2, if half the people are saying guilty on 1 count, but the other half are saying not guilty, does that make that a mistrial or not guilty on that count? And 3, related to 2 by an arrow, if we even have 1 juror disagree on a guilty or not guilty charge, does this cause a mistrial for the entire case or a specific charge in which we disagree? My initial response to this after speaking with my staff attorneys, obviously question 1, I would just reread the returning a verdict. It should be the highest, it has to be unanimous. That's standard instruction. I'll reread them that it has to be unanimous, that all must agree on the charge, and it must be for the highest charge that you all agree on. And if you don't agree on anything, then of course it's not guilty, which is in the standard instruction.
I disagree.
Regarding question 2.
Your Honor, just a correction, if they don't agree on anything, is it hung, not
Oh, it's a hung, right.
Right, okay.
Or they can find them not guilty.
Correct.
Question 2, regarding if half are saying guilty and the other half are saying not guilty, is that a mistrial or not guilty on that count, or is it the entire case, which number 3 and number 2 are really the same question. So if they can't agree, and it creates I'll read them, I'm going to read them an Allen charge too before I send them back. And if they cannot agree, I'm going to explain to them that any non-unanimous finding on any 1 count will not affect the findings of a unanimous count, and that if a mistrial is granted, it would only be for the charges in which there was no agreement.
I agree, Judge. I think that's
the law.
Judge, my one concern is I believe it's too early for an Allen charge. I believe it's premature at this
They've
stage.
been deliberating for almost 8 hours.
Judge, 8 hours in the scheme of things.
They don't agree. They're obviously split on some of these counts that they don't, and then apparently there's a difference of opinion whether it's first or second degree murder. But they'll work something out. But they seems to be pretty deadlocked when half the jury says one thing and half the jury says another. Do you all not? What's the consensus on reading the Allen charge now? Because I'm not married to that idea. I could wait.
Judge, I think it's premature.
Okay.
This could just be a question that they have right now as they're voting with each other. We don't know what stage they're at.
I mean, I initially talked about waiting anyway, like I said, so I'll wait before I do the Allen charge, but I will instruct the others as to how I explained it. If you unanimously agree if you unanimously agree on 1 count, and you cannot eventually agree unanimously to the other count, the unanimous count is not affected. And if 1 or more jurors can't agree and a mistrial occurs, it would not affect the counts in which unanimous agreement was reached.
That's right, Judge. Can you write it out and then say it so that we can hear it?
That's what I just said.
Is that how it's written
That's
out?
Could you do that, Judge?
Okay, so seems like they're not agreeing in that jury room. Let's bring in attorney Holly Waltman, see what she thinks. All right, Holly, you're a practicing criminal defense attorney, so are you encouraged by this?
I'm encouraged by some of the questions. I'm a little concerned by others, and I think we just saw that in the objection that the defense made against the Allen charge. So the process, and this is what I love about court TV, is you get to see the stuff that the jury is not privy to. The question comes in, the judge says, this is what I'm inclined to do, this is what I've consulted with my staff attorney to do, and then each side gets to say, and typically one side says, oh, we like that, and the other side says, wait a minute, judge, let's hold on. The Allen charge essentially is a pep talk. It's a kumbaya to get together and have all 12 people unanimously decide something. So when we look at the first question, if I'm the defense, I'm a little worried because I think that the number they said there was 11-1. If you look at the second question where it is half and half, that it gives the defense a little bit more hope. But I think both sides, and really all three sides, the court, the defense, and the state, get nervous when jurors say the word mistrial, right?
Yeah.
No one wants to start over from the beginning.
Right.
And it does sound as though they are rounding the bin to being in a deadlock and not having anything unanimous. So am I excited for the defense? Partially. I think the state might feel a little bit more confident based on those three questions, but this judge definitely seems to know exactly what he wants to do and how he wants to persuade them to keep working together.
Right, how to instruct them. And surely this judge has had this scenario before, right? We've seen it play out before. Our courties at home have seen it where there's a concern in the jury room. They know what a mistrial is, and they don't want to go there. You can see it's almost the way they worded these, like, oh, we're afraid, if this, then what? They want to know what the consequence is. How about how the judge has to be careful, though, Holly, right, of giving any information so that there's no burden on them and worrying about the consequence. They just need to worry about the facts.
That is vitally important. The court does not want to make a mistake right here. They want to follow the law without putting any sort of impression on any juror or the jury as a whole that the court has any favor in the case, right? Has any opinion about the case. The court's job is to be impartial and to be a referee between the two parties. Any impropriety of influence that the court may have on this case, if anyone is convicted, could rise to a mistrial, not a mistrial, I'm sorry, an appeal issue. And then that would essentially get the person a new trial.
Right. We don't want that. We want this to be done right the first time.